Hello everybody. We are back with another episode of CG Weekly. This is number 376. Good to have you all here. We have Has Agent dropping the Crab Raves in the chat, Philinux interrupting the Crab Rave combo, Dogcoin also dropping the Crab Raves, J Echo in the house, and we're all caught up on the chat there. Anybody over on YouTube? Hello. We're dual streaming right now to both YouTube and there's Festizio. YouTube. That's hot. YouTube and Twitch right now. We're going to be talking some tech news while chilling for a little bit, and let's go ahead and fire things off because there are a few things I'd like to talk about in this little weekly segment. Let's go on over to the news table. Beep 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 beep. Sorry, it's a long walk to get over here. Yeah. I definitely want a chair for this because standing is not great for my back. Oh hey, my phone on the my phone turned off. You know what? We'll watch YouTube chat on this phone. It went to 0. Oh wow, that charger's not fast enough on that side. Cool. So, Has Agent is just hitting the crab raves. He's just hitting it. Let's see. No, please tell me Lioness Town isn't actually happening. Anyways, let's bring this up over here. We got Twitch chat on the tablet over there, and then we have YouTube over here. We'll just set you right there. Right there, nice and comfy. We'll get that mic out of the way. I have these things that Has Agent told me he's gonna come pick up tomorrow. They're 3D prints for him. He said he's gonna come pick them up tomorrow, so they're right here as desk decor right now. Who doesn't like a good piece of desk decor? Also, my ceiling fan turned off. I need to turn that back on too. Much better. Cool. So, both the launches for what's currently up to the Nvidia and Radeon GPUs are done. That is behind us now. The 9070, 9070 XT from Radeon have launched. The 5070, 5070 Ti, 5080, and 5090 have all launched. I do expect the 5080 Ti to be popping up later on, considering the price and performance gap between the 80 and the 90. But more news for 60 series is coming out, and that AMD Radeon 60 series and RTX 60 series. And by 60 series, I mean current whatever 50 and 90, but 60 on the last two numbers because it looks like AMD is following the same naming convention that that Nvidia has been doing. So just something to say. If you over there on YouTube, if you guys haven't already, please hit the thumbs up button. Let's get the stream pushed up to more of the subscribers, if at all possible, and some other viewers would be nice. All right, so a big thing with the Radeon with the Nvidia launch has been the fact that they're hard to get. The the RTX GPUs have just been getting bought up either by bots, scalpers, or just I don't know, demand maybe, even though they're not necessarily the greatest for the money, or they're just hard to get. I don't know. I'm just talking here. But that said, the shortage isn't just for consumers, right? You'd think that maybe system integrators and pre-built PC building companies are also buying them up, causing a problem. Who knows, says Dalquin. Yes. Well, and he ruins the combo. Hello. Well, they're having problems too. And system integrators need to stay current. So this could be definitely problematic for them because if after the 50 series launch, you're not selling 50 series GPUs in your pre-built computers, then you're falling behind. And people will just look to a different pre-built computer maker and buy their product if they have the 50 series that they want. For video editors, the 422 editing upgrade to the NVENC is actually really good. So as if you're buying like a content creator focused pre-built, a 50 series actually does help. But uh, problem is like that's business. You have to stay current. Sure, you can offer models with 40 series and below, but you need to have at least some that are offering 50 series for the option of that. And if they're having problems getting it, then that means they have to get it some other way. So that means that system integrators are now actually, from what I can find, they're also buying from scalpers. So scalpers are winning no matter what. And this sucks because like you say vote with your wallet, and an individual like you or I might just be like, I'm not buying 50 series then. But then the scalpers are just going to sell to pre-built vendors. And the pre-built vendors just have to mark up the prices accordingly to reflect the cost of that because, well, they have no other choice. Otherwise, they lose business and they lose money. It's just a terrible situation all around. So this could be because of the stock, them having issues keeping up with stocks, keeping up with demand. Who knows? But it's maybe factories, TSMC opening their updated factories out here in Arizona, well, near here, might help alleviate some of that demand and some of the issues that they're having. That remains to be seen. The next factory won't be online for a few more years. The current half of the factory that is online is producing chips for Apple. So that's not going to help the GPU situation at all, at least not yet. It would be cool if Nvidia and AMD, which are both they're both American companies, I believe, founded out of San Francisco, Silicon Valley area, even though they do a shit ton of business out of other places in the U.S., but they are headquartered in the United States. So it would be cool if you can build your own chips and get at least some of the stock in the country that you're based out of. Like, not everything has to be outsourced, right? They can sell premium models from the chips made here because obviously it's going to be more expensive because that's just how it is. I'll get a 50 series when 80 series are out, or maybe the 50 when the 90 series are out. Yeah, that's definitely a tactic too. I don't blame you for that. Not at all. Veretman in the house. What is up? And my YouTube chat timed out over here. I gotta make sure you can see me. Oh, mid-roll ads. I set it to conservative, but it's still doing. Okay, cool. Yes. New leaks for Bamboo. Speaking of 3D prints, I have some right here. There are. Bamboo Lab was supposed to release a new 3D printer in December. Instead, they pushed it back to 2025, Q1 2025. And then they released updates to that locked them down and do firmware stuff to them that a lot of people don't like. So the reputation just sort of went pew right before a new printer launch. Hopefully the new printer launch deals with some of these criticisms, but I'm hoping that the printer is everything we all wanted it to be, because I want it multi-head, so two heads on it, two print heads. That'd be awesome, because then you can do two colors and it doesn't have to switch filaments and do all the poop thing as often. And that the AMS on it also is a filament dryer. So you can store your filament in the AMS that holds at least 4 of them, and it keeps them moisture free. That'd be sick. But it's going to be pricey. I'm estimating probably somewhere in the range of $2,500 to maybe $3,000 for what was going to be a dual head model with the AMS that is also filament dryer. That's just where I stand on it. Hopefully it's also larger print volume than what they currently have, because they could use a larger one. That'd be nice. But that just popped into my head right now, looking at the 3D prints that are on my desk and having a Bamboo Lab printer that you can see right there. So I do like them. The updates to their stuff didn't really affect me per se, but for people who have a lot of printers or multiple printers and use different slicing software in order to print stuff and do stuff remotely and do all that stuff, then yeah, it affected them, and that's obviously bad. Verrett said he had entered the Newegg Shuffle on everything near MSRP, no luck. Even the 9070s, 9070 XT. You don't have any micro centers around you, GPUs. And you're talking about the renewed Newegg Shuffle, not the old Newegg Shuffle, right? Because we actually entered the Newegg Shuffle back in the day too, with 30 series, and Dogcoin Sned, who was in the chat, got himself a 3060 back then. 9070 and XT, no shuffle luck. Damn. I don't know, man. Keep on trying. Speaking of MSRP. and GPU prices in general. It does look like Radeon's issue with MSRP is going to be an ongoing battle. MSRP will be far more limited stock on more entry level models, and they're saving their mid-range and premium prices to be higher than that, which is probably the majority of the GPUs that we're going to see out there. So getting one at MSRP won't be impossible, but it just won't be likely, unfortunately, because it sucks to be like, it's only going to be maximum a few percent faster, and that's it. But it's not worth the extra $100 to $150 that it might cost. It just isn't. Anything within $50, fair enough. But if it's $100 or more over MSRP, it's just unfortunate, and you hate to see it. So hopefully they can get things better stock at MSRP. And realistically, probably what needs to be done is they just need to make more of them, so many more of the chips for them, that they can just use the laws of supply and demand in order to bring the not necessarily the prices down, but in order to bring, prices of the chips from their end down. So that way that they actually can survive taking a cut. Because if they're selling at MSRP and they have to do stuff with rebates and all that, that means AMD is probably taking a little bit of a loss on each MSRP card that's sold. And they obviously can't do that forever. So they need to find a way to make stuff. So being a loss leader is a usual business strategy. Every console maker has done that from the beginning of time. Most of the time consoles, well, maybe not beginning of time, I would say beginning of the next gen consoles in the 2000s. The hardware itself cost more at launch than it cost for them than the price that they were selling them for. So it was at a loss. Eventually they made their money back on software, and then everybody's seen this. A new version of the console releases, a slim or a slightly better one, something like that. And it's not a pro or anything like it. It's literally just they want to change the format of the console just a little bit. And what they're really doing is they've made some running changes to the processes for the console to become affordable, so they're not always taking a loss on it. And that's what those are. And hopefully AMD can do something like that, and that we can get more MSRP cards to stay in stock. And I guess Nvidia too, but they've probably eaten up all the TSMC capacity as it is already. Their priority is just AI cards that make them, 300% profit instead of 5. Still okay with your 3070 Ti for now? Oh, that's pretty good. But you're probably gaming at 1440 is my guess. And these new GPUs absolutely blow away 1440. So those major breakthrough in efficiency or crash in the hype. I don't think we're getting the wafer allocation to make lots of... Exactly. Allocation is going to be the problem. And the new factory opening is probably not going to help that much with the allocation, because the factories opening in the United States are just going to be more expensive. So that's not going to help with prices. It might help with stock. But premium models are... And the only way that they can actually make that worth it is they say, screw consumer GPUs. They're going to use those factories to make the AI GPUs that they sell to those companies, because then they can just mark up the price and the companies are going to buy it anyways. So I guess they can offload allocation of the AI specific GPUs from Taiwan into the United States, and then the TSMC Taiwan factories can make more consumer focused stuff, because that's where the prices need to stay low. That's probably the play. But speaking of GPUs, we do have 60 series that are going to be coming out, it seems like. And the 5060, there's a rumored 12 gig variant, which is believable. The 3060 had a 12 gig, and that's funny because the Ti didn't have a 12 gig. The Ti had an 8 gig entry level and a 16 gig. So you'd think that the lower card having more VRAM is counterintuitive. I don't know. It's just weird that they do it that way, but I understand that it's because of the bus. The 5060 is probably a 128-bit bus, and then that makes dividing up the RAM a little differently. That's why you get 8 gig and 16 gig. And the 5060 Ti is probably going to be, 192-bit is my guess, and that's why the RAM number sits differently. So the rumored price of the 5060 12 gig is looking like it's supposed to be about $299. I hope the 5060 12 gig is the $299 model, because if they're going to go with a lower VRAM model than the 12 gig one, and let's say there's an 8 gig variant that comes out, well, maybe that model is going to be cheaper than $299. Now, if Nvidia can put a 5060 8 gig and a 5060 12 gig below the $300 price mark, that would be insane. I would say the 60 series is back. Now, performance would obviously have to be better than the previous gen, but like a 5060 would probably be the performance of a 4070, which is the performance of a 3080. That works. That works perfectly fine, I think. Maybe a little bit more than a 4070, but still. So I think that's fair. And if you have that performance in the sub $300 bracket, 2 GPUs, a 250 and a 300, I think Nvidia can get a lot of positive back. I don't know how you want to put it. It can help their reputation right now, because their reputation is just in the trash right now. But if they can bring back a couple of good performing GPUs under $300, the 12 gig is the $300 model, and an 8 gig or 10 gig is depending on how the VRAM configuration is the $250 model. Solid. We're good. I think that would be a good thing for them to do. I have a 3060 12 gig. They use higher capacity chips to make it not 6 gig. Well, yeah, you can't do a 6 gig now. Not in this day and age. You'll get absolutely destroyed if they do 6 gig on any GPU that's not, let's say, a 50 class. Like if it's got 6 gigs on it, that GPU better be under $200. And yeah, because that might be a decent gaming GPU for 1080p, but people will probably still say it's just not enough and scream about VRAM, not enough VRAM. But look, if it's under $200, you can't really argue that much. It'll probably perform awesome at 1080p and pretty decently at entry level 1440p. So if they keep going down there and they release a 5050 6 gig, and it's not bad for what it is, it has to be under $200. I think $200 to run Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege maybe, Siege X graphics upgrade. We'll talk about that here in a second. Either way though, like Nvidia has the capability to be like, Intel, I see what you're doing at $250. I'm gonna do something about that. Nvidia can do that. They don't need to ignore the segment, and it would be nice to see them do something about that. Now, the 5060 Ti is rumored at 8 gig and 12 gig. So remember that. 5060 Ti rumored at 8 gig and 12 gig. What would be the prices, right? If the 5060 is supposed to be a $300 MSRP card, and the 5070 is at $549, a 5060 Ti should be like $450, right? And the 8 gig at $450 and the 16 gig at $499. And that way they have a GPU every $50. Which is, honestly, it's a lot of GPUs. I mean, they can just drop the 8 gig and just do a single 16 gig 5060 Ti for $480 to give it at least a little bit of room versus the 5070, or just do it at $500 and maybe that gets people to buy the 5070 instead. It's kind of the tactic that AMD likes to use by pricing their GPUs only $50 apart, even though the better one is the $50 is the one that costs a little more. The upsell tactic, they could do that. I don't really think we want the 8 gig one, right? Who's with me on that one? We don't want the 8 gig. If 5060 Ti at 8 gigs, no thank you. Just release the 16 gig one and be done with it, right? Like, that's it. It should be 5060 Ti at 16 gig. And if they do an 8 gig model, should not be a 5060 Ti. Just buy used 40 series? Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't be a 5060 Ti if that's the case, if you ask me. 5060 Ti should be one GPU. Just like the Ti's were just one GPU back in the day. They weren't split around like this. I had a 560 Ti and a 660 Ti. It was just the one model. And other Ti's existed that were just the one model. So they need to go back to that instead of all this varying VRAM amounts, because that's just screwing up allocation. and it makes stock of worse. Like, people would complain about Android, for example, because it's being fragmented. So many different models with so many different versions of the Android OS, and that it's fragmenting the system because these Androids can do this and these ones can do that, but not all of them can do this or that. Nvidia is doing the same thing. They're screwing up stock levels, realistically speaking, because of their fragmenting their GPUs so much with different models and different VRAM amounts for said different models. Like, it's too much. Just set it, right? 60 series, 12 gig, 10 to 12 gig. Anything lower than the 60 should be 8 gig. Anything higher than the 60 should be 16 gig. And then you reach the Halo class cards, and those can be whatever you want, 24 gig to 32 gig. You got Daniel Lopez over on YouTube. 500 gigabyte. How much power draw for low profile 5060? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. It doesn't exist. There is no 5060 right now, so I'm not really sure what that question is. If you want me to speculate on it, it depends on what the power draw of the 5070 is, and then you go lower than that. Can you do it with a single 6-pin? Probably. Honestly, Blackwell is supposedly efficient, right? It is on the same process as 40 series, so it's not that much more efficient. So if you want a low profile one that's like downclocked, whatever, maybe they can pull it off with the single slot solution. But no, I don't think so. If you want a low profile 50 series GPU that will be for pre-builts with weak power supplies, it will have to probably be the 5050 if they even release one. Unfortunately speaking, I don't know if I doubt the 5060 is going to have a model with no extra power on it. They're probably all going to require it, at least a single 6-pin. And some board makers might come out with some, because I think board makers did that in the past. But it's going to be hard to get and probably really expensive, because I do believe there are 4060s without a power plug on them. And they just run off of the PCIe bus, but they're downclocked and they're expensive and also hard to get. Blind Tech in the house, what's up? But maybe Nvidia helped boost the value of my GTX 460 and 760. I can say they're dedicated PhysX processors. Hey, there you go. And what's funny about that whole thing, and I always joke with the tech world, stuff is cyclical. Because in the days of my Radeon 5770 that I had in my computer back from like 2009 to 2011, I wanted to play games that had PhysX. Well, I still had old Radeon GPU lying around. I think I had like a GTX 460, something like that. I did. Yeah, I did. And so I put a Radeon and an Nvidia GPU in the same system back then, and then ran a script that would enable PhysX processing on the Nvidia GPU for the Radeon GPU, and I was able to play PhysX enabled games using the Nvidia card in the second slot as a PhysX processor. It's like a circle, okay? It's never ending. It just comes right back along as like a circle. I'd like a clip of that. Somebody please help me out. Waiting for my friend to send me 97 XT. Oh, cool. Good luck. Hopefully he'll cook you up. What did he do? Did he buy something else? And now he's just going to sell it, or he got an extra, or just got it to get it. And then again, you know what? I'd rather have the money, So, that's cool with the GPUs and all that sort of stuff. I want to see more. It would be great if both the 5060 models, 12 gig and other gig, are under 300. And that I'd rather just see a single 16 gig 5060 Ti. That's it. Let's not mess around with the different VRAM amounts. Give me a 5060 Ti, 16 gig for $499, $479 to $499, and that's it. And Nvidia, it will be fine. And just where should it perform? If the 4070 doesn't even really beat the 80 class from the previous gen, that's a tougher one to say. A 5060 Ti should probably be a 3070. A 3070, not a 4070. It should be a 3070, which is not. It's just, I think that scales well. 3070 beat a 2080 Ti. That was the Halo card of that series, and the 2080 Ti was a monster in its day. So to trickle down, 2080 Ti, then it went 3070, which competed with the 2080 Ti, and then what competed with the 3070 after that? I forget, a 4060 maybe. So it would make sense that a 5060 should be a 3070, and a 5060 Ti should land between a 3070 and a 4070. That way, the 5070 exists within its performance bracket. So yeah, Half-Life 2 RTX demo. It's coming March 18th. Nvidia is releasing RTX Remix with DLSS 4 and multi-frame generation. RTX Remix, I think, is a cool project because being able to just RTXify old games with this additional layer is pretty awesome. It obviously is a major hit on your system in order to run it, but it's an implementation that they didn't have to do, and they didn't have to give it out for people to mess with. So I think it's neat. Am I excited for Half-Life 2 RTX? Not at all. I want Half-Life 3. Give me Half-Life 3. Enough of this. Enough. Everybody has waited long enough. We want it. We want to see it happen. That's it. We need to finish the story. When I finished Half-Life Alyx on VR, that was insane. It was like, whoa, hype. And then nothing. Which is just unfortunate. Oh man! And then we have let's see. Someday I've got to finish BL2 and BL, the pre-sequel. Oh yeah, Borderlands. PhysX Glory. Well, you're not doing it as a 5090. Half-Life series was the best, says Alman. Exactly. Exactly. So we also have Rainbow Six Siege announcing the closed beta for their new update to the game called Siege X. It isn't really a graphics overhaul as much as people were hoping it would be. It is still, to me, the same engine. They're calling it an updated engine. Updated doesn't mean new. Updated means updated. They took the existing engine and polished it up even more, which they've had 10 years to do so. So it should have looked better to me, if you ask me. And it should have been on everything, and it's not. It's not on everything. They're still going to release bits and pieces of it as seasons go on in the updated format. Like, what have they been doing? They've been fighting. They've just been doing microtransaction stuff and just squeezing money out of people in this amount of time instead of actually working on the game. The game takes forever to launch, and while it does run good for what it is, it's not a demanding game. Why does it take so long to launch? Fix your launcher. Maybe CJX fixes the launcher. I don't think it does. But the fact that it's this long and they're still releasing graphics updates in stages is embarrassing, if you ask me. But it is cool. They're adding a new game mode, 6v6, on a map that has multiple objectives, and the first to hit a certain limit wins. And you get to respawn after 30 seconds. That's pretty neat for those people that never really got on board with the games where if you die you have to wait for the round to be over before you start a new round. I think this is good. You get more people to play with, especially if you have bigger crews. And something new like that, new game mode like that, I think is pretty neat. But and I'm glad it's free, I guess. If they were to charge for access to this new stuff in the game, that it would be such a bad reception. It's already not the greatest reception because it's like, new game mode and a few graphics updates. Guys, it's been 10 years. The game came out in 2015. December 2015, but still 2015. Like, little more, please. Little more. Take a page out of Blizzard Activision. I mean, they're not. If they did, they would have been charging for this update, and they would have called it an entire. It wouldn't be what it is. It is still Siege. It's not a 2 I guess the X, they're all like, oh, we can't call it 2. We saw what Blizzard Activision did, and even though they put a 2 at the end of the name, it's still basically the same. So they just did X. It's whatever version they want it to be, because X can be anything. It might even give it to you. Yes, I made that joke. Cool. So I thought I had a little more. I was gonna go for about an hour with the tech stuff, but yeah. Looks like Blind Tech said that if he doesn't end up getting that 9070 XT for MSRP from his buddy, he is going to buy the combo and Newegg and plan it for your next person. Nice, nice. I'm hoping one day, not now. Like I want to get an OLED screen down the line, but I'm stuck with 1440, which I'm going to want a better GPU for OLED. Well, for 1440, because it's 1440. You're going to take like a 20 to 30% FPS hit running a 1440 screen if you stay on the same GPU. It is a more demanding resolution. And a more demanding resolution also means you're going to need to be updating your GPU more often, because if games keep getting more demanding, they get exponentially more demanding if the resolution is also higher. 4K gaming is unrealistic. The fact that people talk about it so much it's pointless. 1440 is the middle ground, and 1080 is the high refresh, high FPS performance. To me, it still looks great. If there were good 1080 OLED screens, I'd probably still stay with 1080. But the thing is, that doesn't exist. It's not a thing. 4090 Ti can run max FPS at 4. Yeah, but you don't need a 4090. There's no Ti, by the way, but you don't need a 4090 to get high FPS 1440. You can get away with that with an 80 class GPU, for example. So 4080, for example, 5080, and you can get just good numbers out of the 70s as well. 5070, 5070 Ti, 9070, 9070 XT. Those can do it as well. You get good performance at 1440, and that's cool, because like it's all the way down into the $500 range that you can get good FPS at 1440. What would be good for 800? For streamers, most of the time I generally still advise sticking with Nvidia for the NVENC. Radeon encoder is actually better now. It's gotten better. Um, but I mean, a 9070 XT for Radeon side, it's under 800. MSRP is 600. So that GPU exists literally within six to $800 on the market. And then I believe the next one that is worth it, that's a current gen new GPU. And worth it is a stretch, only because it's so close to the performance of a 5080, but it doesn't cost as much as a 5080, is the 5070 Ti. You're within 10% of the 5080's performance, but like minus a 20% on cost. Their MSRP is 750, and the 5080's MSRP is what, 1200, 1100, something like that. So you're within 10% of that performance target, and there you go. So I'd say sticking with Nvidia, he says 5070 Ti for new gen. Then I believe the MSRP is 749. There you go. Good luck. They're hard to find. They're not in stock, and they're overpriced everywhere. And that's the problem. Verrett says, no new GPU to play with, so I've been learning how to run TrueNAS scale and set up various Dockers and neat but fresh. Yeah, that's why I went with HexOS. I have the license for HexOS. I'm going to build my own NAS eventually. I want to do that. I want to do a Xeon NAS build with 10 gig and go 10 gig networking and all that good stuff. But I'm just not there yet in terms of like settling on the hardware and the money that's going to cost. So while the Black Friday specials for HexOS were there, I got it, and it's a lifetime license, so they're going to keep adding to it. It uses TrueNAS Scale as its backbone, and it's going to be easy to use, which is what I want. I want an easy setup, easy to use, and then just sit there in the corner and let that thing run. I'm happy. 10% of the 5080 performance at 5080 performance if it's missing ROPS? Well, within 10% of its performance, period. ROPS missing or not is pretty good when you're, hundreds of dollars cheaper than it. Brett, were you aware of HexOS? Have you looked into it? That's the one that Linus Tech Tips has financially backed. And I agree with the use case for it. I'm literally the customer who wants something like that. You just came in here and told me that TrueNAS is neat but frustrating. I don't want the frustrating part. I just want the neat part, and that seems to be what HexOS is doing. What's the performance difference from my GPU to a 5070? A 2080 to a 5070 is like gigantor, super mega, like huge. I don't know. What are we thinking? Like 150% faster, something like that. That's 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 3 generations newer. That's huge. I saw it pop up in searches before, but never looked at it. I have to. Oh, okay, cool. Check it out, man. Let me know what you think. Yeah, it's a massive, massive difference. Although a 5070 is just not the greatest of deals. It's not even 16 gigs. A 9070 XT, which is within $50 of the 5070 MSRP for MSRP, outperforms it most of the time, and that's a Radeon. It's hard to recommend a 5070 for anything, but if you're able to get it at MSRP, I guess. I mean, when I was looking at launch GPUs for the Radeon launch, Micro Center still had a bunch of 5070s in stock at 549 MSRP. Fine. If 100 is 10, then 150 is 15. But yes, it's a massively huge difference. Significantly faster. Because 2080 is competitive with an RTX 3060, and the 3060 to a, I don't know, 4000 series, there's nothing. It'd be like a 4050 maybe, and that's not a thing, I don't think. So that would mean that a 5070, what was the scaling I was saying? A 5070 should be competitive with the previous gen 4080. And there you go. Less problems won't be, or go Radeon like you said and give you content. I mean, realistically, for how you use your GPU, okay. Problem that you have is that you rely on Nvidia noise suppression. And while AMD has their own noise suppression stuff, and I think you'd be able to use it with that combo, I'm not sure of its quality. And that therein lies the issue. You use other features of Nvidia GPUs to accomplish that. That's all. So, I mean, that's helpful. It's a reason to stick with Nvidia for you, because you're using the extra features that are not necessarily the most proven technologies on the AMD side. But for pure gaming, AMD, dude, 100%. I wish there was a Micro Center here in Vegas. We have an empty old Fry's building. True, yeah. Rest in peace, empty Fry's building. But it would be cool. Yes, for Zalman, I'd say stick with Nvidia, but if you could swing a 5070 Ti, you're set for years. A 5070, you're also probably set for years. Your 2080 is still tanking everything. I'm shocked. Every game you put on there, you still stream it and play it, for the most part, just fine. Very little issue. Monster Hunter Wilds just came out, right? That's a new generation game, and your computer is literally tanking it. It's tanking, all right. You said it's on low. But that's the point that I'm making here. 20 series came out in like 2019. You're running on a 6-year-old GPU on a platform that AMD has moved on from. And you're playing the game, you're playing a current gen game. And this is one of the reasons I actually advocate for 1080p. Because that is literally 90% of the reason you're able to tank everything, because you're still playing at 1080p. Finally fully use my screen. You are. You can see every refresh. Sure, it's a 144, but you're not doing 1440 on that. So it's a 1080p screen. You're playing 1080p, and if the games go over 60 FPS, you're using your screen. My empty Fries in Seattle Renton was turned over into housing already. So demolished and turned to housing, or housing built inside? I've always wondered about that. I see all these giant warehouses for Amazon being built, and then what happens if like they move on? Amazon dies, warehouse sits, nobody's using it. That's just a building that's covered in land. Do they build inside? Like, is that a thing? Is there a company that's looking at warehouses and doing, I don't know, apartment living inside of them? I think that'd be kind of neat. Like the structures are already air conditioning, roof over the head. It's stable, earthquake, quote, like all, up to code, all of it, and then just set up walls inside. And if anything, that's just going to make it more stable, like more rigid as a building. Demolished. Oh man. Then it did houses. Then not townhomes, not apartments, something like that. That's my guess. The plumbing is vastly different. Mall conversion project. Yes, that part's true. I saw a thing that was like a video about a converted mall where the bottom floor of the mall is still shops and every floor above the first floor is now housing. But it wasn't like they really changed things internally. Sure, I think they fixed, like the plumbing is already there for say a bathroom in each of the units, right? But the plumbing isn't really there properly for cooking, and neither are the place up to code for cooking inside. So that part becomes a problem. But you can resolve it to some degree with like hot plates and electric and stuff like that. But they're not really accommodating for like smoke removal, fume removal, stuff like that, and fire suppression. Although fire suppression is already set up pretty properly inside of these warehouses. 5070 is in stock. For how much? Dude, buddies and I went to into an abandoned Pirelli tire factory when I lived in Cali. It was huge. Empty offices. Amazed to know homeless people were in it. Bathrooms worked too. And Dole factory next to it was using it to store canned fruit. So I had food. Well, you just make a mental note. You're like, in case the world ends, I know where to go. And then now you want the all the homeless people to stay out of it. 650 is a ripoff for that GPU. Don't buy it. Check Micro Center. See if they have the 549 model in stock. Because it's just a waste of money and anything higher than its MSRP. Because it's just the performance is good. Don't get me wrong, especially coming from a 20 series. You're going to get a massive improvement no matter how you look at it. But like you can't feed the machine. You can't let them overprice you and as they give you something that should be better for the money and you just happily take it for the overpriced amount. You know what I mean? Like that's the problem right now. People are just doing it anyways. Whether it be bots, whether it be scammers, whether it just be people who want a GPU, they just go, I don't care, I just want it, and they buy it. And they paid way too much for it. And that's what's not helping. If people stop buying the ones that cost more, eventually the prices would have to come down, or more stock at the lower price models would have to come in, or they'd have to do a thing where they like AMD is doing, where they do manufacturer rebates, where they pay the difference for the board partners to keep the prices low. Again, that's not entirely possible to do forever. But a company like Nvidia can easily do that because they're making money hand over fist elsewhere in the market. The more expensive stuff is supposed to help fund the development and selling of prices on lower tier gear. That's just how that's supposed to work. You have all this profit coming from all these higher end items, and that profit could help subsidize the lower end, lower priced stuff. So I want to see more of that. But if people keep buying the cheaper stuff for the more expensive prices, there's no reason for them to do that at all. So Micro Center is probably the place where they're keeping MSRP stock of those GPUs, unless Best Buy. I do believe Best Buy is doing MSRP because like that's where I got a 3070 Founders Edition for MSRP during the GPU apocalypse. But right now that it's not GPU apocalypse time, there's no real reason for them to keep the MSRP cheaper variant in stock for any significant levels. You know what I mean? Anybody out there right now, can you quickly check Micro Center in Tustin to see if they have 5070s or 9070s, 9070 XTs in stock? We can probably fix Zalman's issue with having to rely on Nvidia noise suppression by having him use Elgato's new voice focus feature, which is GPU agnostic. But the problem is we would have to get him a Wave XLR add-on for his Stream Deck Plus to move his mic into, and then now you're spending another $100. And then what was the point, right? Like now you're having to buy two things that total to more than the one thing that you wanted to buy. Gigabyte 5070 Ti Eagle. Wait, that's a Ti. Open box for $720. That's good. That's good because there's also warranty. So we could probably just test it, make sure it's all good. Why would it already be returned? Maybe they just changed their mind? Hard to say. But that's a good price. Good price. Air quotes, everybody. Good price for a 5070 Ti. Box was damaged, not used. I mean, you still have warranty. The GPU is still warranted under the manufacturer if it does have issues. So there's that. All right. Cool. So I think that ends today's tech news segment, and we can move on to jumping into some hanging out. I'm going to grab some drinks from the fridge, actually. And I think it's time to check out Siege X in person. So if you guys heard about Siege X and its new beta, which I talked about earlier, I think we're actually going to be checking it out tonight. And if not, maybe we'll play some Repo. We were checking that out yesterday. It's a fun game. It's Lethal Company-ish, sure. But it's obviously polished a little differently. Played a little differently. But Zalman, if you're Jay, what's up? Yes, you play Siege? Got a Blood Moon tonight? Oh, it's still red tonight? You saw it yesterday. While I was streaming it, it was looking really red on the camera. It didn't look as red to my eyeballs, but yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little tech talk part of the stream, talking tech and all that sort of stuff. Let's see if Zalman actually nuts up and goes into his Best Buy and buys that GPU, because if he's looking at it, maybe he's just not talking out his butt. Go get it. Okay, don't get it. It's a lot of money. I don't care. Up to you. What did I miss? Oh, we're just talking about GPUs, RTX shortages extending to system integrators, not just your average person. 5060 talking 12 gig models with it, and pricing of the TI and the non-TI 5060s that are upcoming, the different VRAM amounts and configurations those are going to come in. I didn't talk about SteamOS for desktop PCs. I missed that one. So before we go, 9950X3D, it's expensive, and I'm super glad that the 16-core X3D variant is now no longer slower in multi-threaded workloads than its non-X3D variant. Goes to show you that AMD is putting in the work to make it where, honestly, they won't have to sell non-X3D variants. If they can just have only X3D variants, because if they make a version of it that's good at everything with no downsides, there's no reason to waste the silicon allocation on non-X3D versions. That's it. That means that they can bring prices down of the X3D variant CPUs if there is literally no downside to having it on there. But I'm not entirely sure they're completely there yet. It does seem that way with the 9950 X3D versus the 9950 regular. We'll see. Stay streaming. We're still streaming. But, oh yeah, Steam. The spring sale is on. And yeah, I bought Project Winter and Repo. Although Repo wasn't really on sale, but Project Winter was for $5. But speaking of Steam, SteamOS, someone says, Bark. I mean, Book. Someone got it? Of course they did. Okay, so, what was I saying? SteamOS for desktop. SteamOS for desktop. Let me repeat that. Steam OS for desktop. That's huge. That's Steam OS, what's on the Steam Decks that are awesome handhelds and basically have revolutionized the handheld gaming market. And if you can get Steam OS like that on desktop, you're basically making yourself a DIY, super well configured, well running home console. And anybody that is on a console that is probably thinking about switching to the PC but think it's complicated and all that sort of stuff, they can just do a SteamOS based PC and have PC level performance and configurability and upgradability with the ease of use of a console. So this could be huge, and obviously Linux people are probably super happy about this because that will increase Linux deployment in out in the wild like that. You just pulled the trigger on what? You said someone got it. Are you the someone that got it? Let's see that receipt in Discord. Is there a big difference between H150Is, Capellix, and current Link versions, other than how the fans look and hook up? I believe Corsair likes to use Asetek for their pumps. So I would look at the details. Look at the details. If the pump generation is the same, there is no difference in performance. We're talking Gen 6 versus Gen 7. I think Gen 7 is the current gen of the pump. So if they say that the pumps are the same generation, then you're fine going with either one, whatever's cheaper or whatever you like more. But if the more expensive one has the Gen 7 and the cheaper one has Gen 6, then there is a reason to have the higher gen model. Although the Gen 6 will probably perform perfectly fine, but if you're spending that kind of money, because I know those AIOs aren't cheap, you probably obviously want the nicer one. But I would instead go with Arctic if possible. Arctic makes great AIOs, and part of the reason that theirs also perform well is they have a little fan on their pump that will blow air at the VRMs, so that's good. But then also their radiators are thicker, and a thicker radiator is more area for the fans to push air through for performance to be better and stay better longer. And you can't really beat that. Like, that's a good reason to go with the Arctic AIOs. So I would just recommend an Arctic AIO. Corsair's fine if you want to keep all your stuff Corsair, if you're one of them Corsair people that do all that. But get the one with the newer version gen pump, Gen 7, I believe. If you can, if that's what you're looking at, there's a difference there. If they're the same, like I said, the performance should be pretty much the same. But Arctic will just get them. Just wondering, I was about to do an RMA. Oh, okay. I mean, they might replace it with the newer model. But if they just offer to give you your money back, take the money, get an Arctic, and then you're good. All right, now let's get back down to the main desk. They were out of the older one. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, they can only get better, right? You'd hope. All right, on. Okay. Blind Tech, Daniel Lopez, thank you guys for hanging out over on the YouTube side of things. Um, Make sure you head on over to the Twitch. I'll be going the rest of the night over there, and you can come check out some shenanigans going on with that. So thank you all, and I will catch you all the next. We're going to be shooting a video this weekend, so make sure you stay tuned for that over on the YouTube side of things. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and head on over to the Twitch, and I'll see you guys there. Later later YouTube. Good night. Catch me on Twitch. Come on over. You know what? I'm gonna throw the link in because I have to. In case you guys haven't, it is linked in every single video. But make sure. Oopsie, I should have minimized it. Head on over to the Twitch, and I'll see you guys later. The YouTube people, Twitch people, stay right where you're at. I do have to do a thing on Twitch, but we'll deal with that in a second.